when you're winning. Get a goal, it's just the beginning. You gotta sing when you're winning. Everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. You gotta sing when you're winning. Get a goal, it's just the beginning. Sing, sing when you're winning. Everywhere you go.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Sing When You're Winning, a Fantasy Football League oddity podcast featuring distant cousins of podcast royalty and a very special guest this week who we will reveal very shortly. Waiting in line for the podcast throne this week, well, it's myself and Steve. We're back into it's that can people do it on a cold Tuesday night in January, and it appears that they can't.
No,
Shocking
too busy
Steve,
watching the
shocking.
matches that are on, aren't they?
They are, because obviously this Friday morning it's a half time and it's Chelsea 1, Bournemouth 0. It's West Ham 2, Fulham 0, which is a bit of a shock, but Graham Potter having instant results, and it's Brentford 0, Man City 0, and a certain Nottingham Forest are 1-0 up. But yeah, we'll talk about live football as it happens from a Tuesday night this Friday morning on your podcast. But let's introduce ourselves, name of our team. And this week we've seen further managerial changes with the surprising return of David Moyes back at Everton, replacing Sean Dyche. So if you could have any manager back at your club, who would it be and why? Steve, it's looking like it's me and you. So
it's an absolute no-brainer, and Andy will probably back me up on it. It's Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah. You would go
absolutely.
And
Just that period of time, might not have won all that much, and we had a terrible season at the end. But just the man himself and his aura and the way we played football and everything about him, I loved. And I've never thought that about any other Leeds manager. Ever really had that love for Howard Wilkinson or anything like that, or George Graham or anybody. So it's just. I don't know whether other fans of other clubs get it even. You can't even put a finger on it, really. It's just absolutely different to any other manager in the world, I would have thought.
Yeah. I don't think many clubs get that relationship necessarily. I mean, as a Borough fan, I've got managers that I've loved, but I don't think particularly like that. The manager I would have back, which sounds stupid because he was only there for 4 months, was Terry Venables. Because he saved us as a club back when Brian Robson was taking us into we had a season ticket at the time, and we played some of the worst football you'll ever see. And then we had the likes of Alan Boksic in the team, Christian Karrenbauer, and he managed. We were bottom of the league. We were garbage. Paul Ince, and then Terry Venables took over, and within 2 weeks we beat Chelsea 1-0 at home, and we went on to beat Arsenal 3-0 away. And he just turned that team like completely around, and we ended up finishing like comfortably safe that season. And so for me, I know he would never. He came for the money and he did the job. But for me, if I could go back in time and have Venables for 2 to 3 years at Middlesbrough, it'd be interesting to see what he would have done. To be fair, But yeah, maybe a weird choice, but he's the one that sticks in my mind the most. Is probably the best manager I've seen at Borough, even though he's only there for a couple of months. So let's give a warm Sing When You're Winning podcast welcome to our special guest. So I'll give a bit of an intro first, and then we'll ask them as well who they're. You've already predicted that it's going to be Leeds there. You're giving a bit of a clue, Steve. But yeah, this week's special guest, as described by himself, I think, on Instagram, is a former professional footballer for Leeds United and England under-21s, now a professional sports host, and so he might teach us a thing or two. And presenting includes Leeds United on match days. Let's give a very warm Sing When You're Winning podcast welcome to Andy Couzens.
How are you doing, guys? You all right?
Very warm from both of us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. It's an interesting question, though, that one, actually, to be fair. For me, Marcelo, you're right. He brought something very different in. But I think what Marcelo did was more that he brought the whole city together. And I think that's the difference. I think, for me personally, it was the right time when he actually left. He brought some glory days. But for me also, I think, I played under Howard, and I think Howard put a structure in place for the football club going forward. You know, it was an interesting one. Got asked this at from an audience member at a do I was with Don Matteo, and he was, who would you class as everybody going through? And you know, Dom's was Revie, David O'Leary, then Marcelo Bielsa. I personally went straight in. I disagree with that, because you couldn't have had David O'Leary without Howard Wilkinson. Howard Wilkinson won us the championship, won us the championship as it was then. Mm-hmm. You know, the Premier League, the Premier League as we know it as now. You know, he put a structure in place. He was far further in front. So I think it's difficult when you put one person in there. I think because we went through such a difficult time with, you know, before Marcelo came in, you know, and the managers which we had, the chairman potentially who we had as well in place, Marcelo just brought everybody together. He had a very special knack, I think, of having loyalty from the players, making the players better, but also he had an affection to the fans, which is unraveled, I think, in the time of Leeds United to a certain point. But it is a really interesting question. Is that from a Leeds point of view, it's a very interesting question, because George Graham, I was under George as well. David O'Leary couldn't do what David O'Leary did, I don't think, without George Graham's structure, which he came in, which we all hated, you know, to a certain point, because the football wasn't very good. It was very defensive. It was very, you know, working on the defence. But then you look at that David O'Leary team, the defence was still very, very strong. But the attacking and the forward line he had, and the money he could spend, you know, had, you know, flair written all over it. You know, Harry Kewell, Lee Bowyer, to name a couple who were young players coming through, Alan Smith, you know, Gary Kelly at the back, you know, Rio Ferdinand obviously came in. That was a big money signing. Woodgate, who was homegrown, Paul Robinson, who's homegrown. We had some great players at that time, but he needed that experience at the back. So you kind of look at each manager, put something in place for the next one. And I think we're in a really good position at this present moment in time as well, which I'm sure we'll come into a bit further down the line.
Yeah, we certainly will come on to talk about Leeds at the moment. But you're right, just as you're talking about that. I mean, I'm not a Leeds fan, but just hearing you talk about some of the stars and the young talent that you had, yeah, scary to think about.
That young talent was all put in place by Howard Wilkinson.
Yeah,
and I was actually one of the first ones, along with Mark Tinkler, Jamie Forrester, Kevin Sharp. Mark Ford was a year younger than us. Noel Whelan, obviously, in that group as well. So we all made it in through that first team, and we were part of a 5-year plan, by all accounts, for Howard Wilkinson, or a 10-year plan, I think it was. But you know, of him getting everything, the youth actually getting into the first team. You know, and you think of when Howard was there from our point of view, to then basically when George and David O'Leary left, how many we had, a conveyor belt of things coming through. That team was scary, really. You know, and you look at the full internationals we had, like Woodgate was just phenomenal. As a centre-half, he was right up there.
Yeah.
You know, if he didn't have all the injuries, which he had. But then you've got like Paul Robinson, international. Alan Smith, international. James Milner, international. You know, everybody just rolls off your tongue, really, doesn't it? And I think Howard was the person who put the academy first and made sure that we got that homegrown talent coming through from all different areas to then make Leeds what they were at that time. Unfortunately, I think we just got mismanaged then from that point onwards. We saw the dream and we wanted to go for the dream, which was what every fan wanted, you know, but unfortunately that dream cost us big time for 16 years, unfortunately.
Yeah. But as I say, we'll come on to it in a minute. You're on the way back up, though. So chat about your FPL stats.
Do we have?
I think we should. Thanks to Statman Steve here, who's giving us some stats. You've had 8 years in FPL, and this is your 5th season in Sing When You're Winning. The first season you finished 7th in the championship, then you finished 5th in the championship. You're on the way up. Then your 3rd season you were 15th out of 28 teams, and then last season, unfortunately, relegated with 45 points, which is still a decent score, to be fair, to be relegated with. But this year, you're in League One, currently 17th. You're in the relegation zone, but only 7 points off a playoff place. So anything could happen.
Yeah, I think I've been done this year, though. I've been done. Yeah. You know, Robertson got his red card rescinded. So that would have been another win because that was -3.
Yeah, I was screwed over that week as well, yeah.
So, and I drew that game, so that would have been another win on there. So yeah, look, it's still a long way to go. I keep flicking around with people. I try to keep away from Haaland, and that cost me a little bit. And Salah as well. I try to keep away from him. I didn't think he'd do much this year, to be fair, since it's his last year. Shows you how much I know about football.
So you've not had either of them in your team?
I've not had either of them in my team.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
I did go for Palmer, to be fair.
Yeah.
I went for quite a packed midfield to a certain point. So it's always
quite
the same,
a close
isn't it?
division, yours, isn't it? It's if you win a couple, you end up in top half, and you lose a couple, you're back in bottom half in your league. Mike Bushell keeps bouncing one end to the other at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you go on a bit of a run, you'll end up back in the playoffs. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
From that point of view,
unless you're Chesney, because then you're going a bit of a run, you'll still be bottom.
Yeah, he'll just go the other way.
He's having a nightmare.
I don't think he's that bothered, is he? Really, to be fair.
No, I think he is. He did all right last year. I think he's key. He's just not picking the right players.
Yeah,
too busy promoting his new song. That's what he is.
Yeah, no, he's doing well. Successful careers affected his
absolutely.
Yeah, after last week on the pod, I think he's definitely still interested. He definitely wants to succeed on this. I can tell.
I think we're all competitive, aren't we? So we all want to as much as we can. You don't like losing games. It also gives you something on a weekend when you're looking. You're constantly looking at, and like tonight, you're looking at things. You're looking at what team you've got and who scored, and it definitely keeps you
extra interest. Yeah,
as Leeds fans, it gives you interest in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So for hopefully for when we go in there next year.
What did you do last time Leeds were in Premier League, though, Andy? Did you pick Leeds players?
I picked Stewie Dallas.
Yeah.
I did. I had Stewie in there. And I think I had Bamford in for quite a while as well, to be fair, at the start, which was the COVID year.
Yeah, season 1 Bamford, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of had them two in. And then I think I had Paddy in all year, to be fair. I think. And Stewie, I think he got injured. I was in and out a little bit, so I didn't play him as much. But your legiancy always lies with Leeds, doesn't it? If Leeds are in the Premier League, then you're gonna most likely pick somebody out of that team to be in your.
Yeah. I think it's nice. It's in that sense, but then in other ways, if Leeds lose and then your players don't get you any points there, then it's a double blow, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit. And we're used to that as Leeds fans, though. To be fair, aren't we?
Yeah. But then you get a lot of people who refuse to pick. Do you pick Man U players?
I stupidly, and it is very stupidly, I picked the worst captain in the Premier League, Bruno, and he got sent off. I thought, right, I'm going to change a few bits around. I'm going to play my wild card. Pick a few bits. I'm going to put him in because I think they're going to come good at some point. And he might get a penalty or whatever. But no, 2 yellow cards and sent off. So yeah, waste of money that one, wasn't it? Yeah, should learn my lesson, really, shouldn't I?
Well, you've still got a new wild card to play with, I'm sure.
Yeah. I did think about that the other day as well, but a decent win last week. Palmer's going to do the deed for me this week. Wow. He's going to score again in this game. Got him as captain as well. So. We'll and I've also got Chris Wood in there, so it's not a bad start, really, to be fair.
Well, and if Liverpool don't score, Salah's going to have a bad week. He's looking good in that sense.
Absolutely.
Well, do you want some top tips for how you can play with the next however many game weeks? Because somebody not me
yes,
went
please.
yes, thank you for that. Somebody not me went to a lot of trouble to give some stats, which are quite interesting actually. I think everyone's heard that game week 24 is going to be a double game week for Liverpool and Everton. So that's been confirmed with their rearranged game. So people might want to save triple captain for Salah that week, possibly. Who knows?
That'll be end of January, is it, that one?
I think it is. This is game week 22, isn't it? So it'll be
another couple of weeks
time or something like that. And then in game week 29, due to the Carabao Cup final clash, 4 teams will blank. So have a look ahead. So you might want to start planning ahead for game weeks coming up and going, who's going to be in the Carabao Cup final, who's not going to play there, etc. But teams blanking in game week 29 will double up in game week 33. So that could be a good window for people using things like the bench boost for some players potentially doubling up. And then the week after,
assistant manager. Don't forget.
Well, somebody said that you should wait for game week 36 for assistant manager. I'll come on to that in a sec. Right. But game week 34 clashes with the FA Cup semis, and so that might likely cause a lot of blanks depending on FA Cup results. So that could be a good week for using the free hit, apparently. So if you've got your free hit hanging around, maybe use that in game week 34, and then double game week 36. So teams blanking in game week 34 because of the FA Cup semis will double up in game week 36. That'll be the last double of the season. And the assistant manager chip could be used there to target the double and go for managers capable of table bonus points. So there you go. There's some possible top tips for how you can negotiate upcoming game weeks and make the most of those doubles and blanks. So yeah, thanks to that person who posted that on some social media thing. I thought, yeah, I'll have that.
It sounds a lot of hard work, that one.
That does sound like a lot of planning, doesn't it?
It does, but yeah, we like to give some educational tips on this podcast as well. It's not all nonsense,
absolutely.
But again, like I was saying, if you're playing for a head-to-head league, then you don't want to do what everyone else is doing, do you? You're better off playing your chip when nobody else does, because then you're going to get your 3 points out. If everyone plays wild card in or whatever triple captain in the same week or something, then you're not going to get any advantage out of it, are you?
No. No.
But if you want to finish in the top 100,000 people in the world, I don't think anyone in our league's doing that, but then maybe you want to think about that.
Exactly. But do you want to, Steve, I know we don't have any scores to look back on because we're currently talking through this week's game week. But yeah, are there any particular...
Well, as we know, although this is going out Friday morning, so all these games are now finished, so everyone will know whether they're doing all right or not.
Forest is still beating Liverpool 1-0, by the way.
Oh, is that second half now as well?
I don't think they're quite half.
No, nearly half time.
39 minutes or so they're in. Yeah. Chris Wood again.
This live football stuff, it's the way to go, isn't it, on a Friday morning?
It certainly is. Exciting football, as it happened, people, don't forget, on this Friday morning.
So in the Premier League, it's all pretty dull, actually, this week. Chris Payne and Dan are playing each other, which would have been fun if either of them had turned up tonight for the pod, so that would have been fun. I'm playing Mark Summerton, who's top, and he's played his wild card, so that's fun, although my captain scored, so I'm not sure who his captain is. At the bottom, rock bottom, John Gregory is playing Richard Archer, and the only game that's really means anything for two teams at the bottom is Rick Witter playing Chris Dawkes. In the Championship, there are a few basement battles in that one. Richley is playing Dave Atkins down at the bottom. Joe Derrick is playing Swanee down at the bottom, and Nicola, my wife, is playing Ross, who's struggling down at the bottom. The only top game there is Phil Pinder, who's just in the playoffs, I think, and he's playing Jim, who is top of the table, League One. Jamie Hurst at the top is playing Alex Renton, who's about fourth, I think. Andy, you're playing Craig Wilson this week.
Yeah.
And I think Craig probably not that much further in front of you, I don't think.
No, but I've just looked at his team there. He's a little bit in front of me at the minute.
Is it? Very early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And rock bottom, Chesney is playing Mike Bushell, so there's a chance he could win that one, I suppose. Mike's about fifth from bottom, I think, just above you, Andy. And in the
it's a
Conference
goal.
League,
Chelsea won, Bournemouth won. Chelsea won, Bournemouth won. Penalty for Bournemouth. Hammered home. That's live football as it happens.
That is live football.
Sorry,
I've also got it on here, but it's not. They haven't scored yet.
You've just ruined it for us.
Sorry, I've ruined the excitement for you.
And it's Conference League, top table. Let me finish this, and then we can move on. Pete Martini's playing Finn, who's lost about 5 in a row at the bottom. It's a big game for Sophie Ridge playing Joe Singleton, and Neil Robertson is playing Grace Maloney. They're all playoff matches. And rock bottom Chris Murray, who's improved but still not winning any games, is playing Maddox, who's about mid-table. And that's about it for exciting ties this midweek.
Excellent. And shall we have a look ahead to real football then? The weekend in game week 22. I say the weekend, it's tomorrow. Brentford, Liverpool, Saturday. What do we think is going to happen there? At Brentford as well. So
it depends on what happens really tonight, I think, doesn't it? You know, Liverpool are obviously flying this year with what else is happening, I suppose, in the league with Man City and everything else. But an Arsenal, you know, Forest are absolutely flying at the minute. But it's a tough place to go, is Brentford.
Yeah,
a really tough place to go. You know, and the Liverpool, these are two tough away fixtures. You know, Forest are flying at the minute. You know, Brentford at home. You know, the drawing against Man City at the minute, just coming up to half time. 50 odd minutes in. So, you know, they're obviously making it difficult there for them. So they've got a game plan, and I do like their manager down at Brentford. He's done a really good job, to be fair, with the resources which they've got. So still fancy Liverpool, I have to say. I don't think it'd be one of them where they go off and run away with it.
Yeah,
I think they've gone off the boil a bit at home recently, Brentford, haven't they? Because they were a bit of a guaranteed to score 3 or 4 goals at home. But then last few weeks they haven't, and they lost in the cup, didn't they, the weekend as well?
Yeah, lost against Plymouth somehow.
Yeah.
It was a wonder goal, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Plymouth play 6 at the back. It's like, when they came to Ellen Road, that's how they played. But they've got a new manager, hasn't they? You know, new manager syndrome. You know, you look at West Ham. You know, new manager gone in there. You know, Everton, the same thing. Moyes back in. You know, is it one of them? They get their little kick, which is what they're wanting when they sack a manager. That's what they want, isn't it? They want to, you know, somebody to, you know, to kind of the bounce back. You know, 2 or 3 results, for instance. Then let's see where they are there. But I think. As I say, I think for Liverpool's point of view, I think it's massively important that they get something out of Forest, but also that they get something down there as well, the 2 away games, to keep that gap, really.
Yeah, just looking as it stands, there'll be 3 points behind Forest.
Yeah.
Game in hand for Liverpool, though.
Well, Nunes has done a great job, hasn't he?
Well, amazing. I mean, everyone laughed at Forest when they bought 40 players or whatever, didn't they, when they first came up, and then it's kind of working out for them now, isn't it?
I suppose it just shows you what a good manager does.
Yeah.
Good manager can pick out the good players to play in his team. He's picked a team which is wanting to play, you know, for him a little bit more, and he's got the experience as Nunes, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that's proving, you know, the point now without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think a big squad is a good thing, I have to say. You know, I think if you've got a big squad, you've got a lot of people you've got to keep happy, and Forest definitely were in that situation a couple of, you know, last season and maybe the season before. Now they've got maybe a smaller squad, you know, of 35 players instead of 50 odd players like they had. But then it's a bit easy to keep people happy in that sense.
Yeah, but no, he did a brilliant job at Wolves, didn't he? And I think he had a bit of a point to prove after Spurs. So yeah, Forest are reaping the rewards of that at the moment.
Sometimes we had this conversation the other week. You know, some managers just work, don't they, at different clubs? You know, look at Nunes. He's doing it at Forest. It must work. He did it at Wolves. It worked. It didn't work at Tottenham. You know, but then you look at, what's his name at Arsenal? You know, was it Arsenal now at Villa?
Emery.
You know, Emery. He's done a fantastic job at at Villa, and it just fits. He just wasn't at Arsenal maybe at the right time to really push them forward. And now he's at Villa, and they're absolutely flying. When you think of what position they were in, they went up the year when I think we should have gone up.
Yeah.
It may be a good thing that we didn't go up that year. I don't think we were ready for it, but they went up that year, and they would have gone. I think they would have gone down if that goal against Sheffield United was actually given when goal line technology was switched off and it went through the net.
Ridiculous.
They would have gone down, and you're thinking they stayed up by I think a point or two, and you just think, well, that's ridiculous when you think of where they are now to where they were then. And it just shows you that you need a little bit of luck, especially if you're in the Premier League. You need a little bit of luck when you first get in there to stay in there.
Yeah.
And then you've got to build on that. I think the problem we had at Leeds was that we finished 9th. Leeds fans expected us to be in Europe the year after, but unfortunately, we had a lot of people who were struggling. I think fitness wise at that point because the Bielsa regime was hurting, I think, and that's kind of where we, our fall was a little bit. Maybe it would, it was that we needed to invest in the team at that point.
Yeah, we needed new blood at that point, didn't we? And didn't.
Unfortunately, I don't think we had the backing from, the chairman at that point to actually have that backing, and you need that. You need that from any chairman in a football club.
Do you feel that'd be different if the Leeds went up this year, Andy?
Yeah, 100%. The infrastructure behind the scenes is so much stronger. For me, it's the strongest it's ever been. You've got the 49ers there, who know how to put a franchise together. They know how to build a stadium. They know how to build a financially viable, franchise, if you want to call it that, as an American side of things. You've also got Red Bull there just sitting in the background as well. We've got some very wealthy people involved with the football club. And, if we need some cash, then sure, we can just knock on the door and we can get that cash.
Just depends how much you can spend. It's all PSR and stuff, isn't it, really?
Well, it comes down, it's always that. And that's the problem, isn't it? The gap, what I saw on the FA Cup just gone, we were saying it with all the lads who I work with on match days, that the problem is that it's getting wider now, is that gap. The gap between the Premiership and the Championship. Every Premiership club, apart from maybe Tottenham, but that was one of them where you kind of think it could be a banana skin because of where it was. But you look at, Norwich lost 4-0. West Brom lost. All the top teams. Liverpool beat Accrington comfortably. But all the Premier League clubs, Brighton beat Norwich, wasn't it? 4-0. At Norwich, and you're thinking, well, Norwich are a decent Championship team. Brighton are a mid-table team in the Premiership, and they've absolutely battered them with their second-string team. And that is the problem. The gap is just getting wider and wider and wider. So it's even harder when you do go into the Premier League. It's even harder to stay in that Premier League because they've got so much more cash, available to spend. And things. So it's very, very difficult, very, very difficult for us to go into the Premier League and say, right, we're going to finish 9th even, like we did under Bielsa. In a way, you go into the Premier League and you finish 4th bottom, you kind of go, that's been a good season.
17th is the target, isn't it? I think any
Exactly.
season, the promoted teams are the favourites to go down, like as they are right now anyway.
Well, you look at Southampton
and Leicester, yeah.
Southampton are just terrible, aren't they? In the Premier League. But it just shows you, it also shows you that you make a mistake, and that mistake it's like you jumped on straight away. So your back four is massively important. I do think for us as a back four at the minute, we are quite strong. And I think that's a good thing. I think you look at Southampton, they wanted to play from the back. They wanted to play against us. If you remember at Ellen Road, they did it against Leeds before the playoff final. They did it and they played out from the back. They were playing around in the box and all that kind of stuff. And it worked for them. And they took us to sword and so on and so forth. But they're now getting found, or they're being found out in the Premiership because, the Premiership players and Premiership managers are slightly, they're wired differently. They're more intelligent. That's why they're in there. As are the managers. The managers are wired differently. You know, the managers they just know everything about every little bit on that football pitch, and you know, any weakness they will jump on, and that's what's happening. And you know, unfortunately for Southampton, that's what's happening with them down there. We can't go into that. We can't fall into that if we go up into the Premiership.
Well, that'll teach them for winning playoff final, won't it?
Well, we don't really want to go into the playoff final. You know?
That gets mentioned every now and again on this podcast, to be fair. I think you guys just need to move on.
Yeah, well, the players have never been a good place for us, have they? And you know, I was down there with the club and stuff, and we were never at the races really. You know,
it was terrible.
We weren't at the races. Dan James made a big difference when he came on. If that had hit instead of hitting the bar, it kind of went in.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, that was our opportunity. I think we would have gone on and won that game. To be honest with you, and you know, for me, I would have changed a few bits at halftime. I would have changed it a little bit earlier than what he actually did. I think.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I think, you know, it was just really disappointing, isn't it? Because Wembley's a great day out, but only if you win.
Yeah. I think, well, it is. It's the old cliche, isn't it? But it's true. So it's a great day out up until kickoff, and then it's only good if you win, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. 2 more quick games, and then we'll come and chat a bit more about Leeds, Andy. But next Sunday, we've got Everton Spurs. Quick predictions on that one. What do we think?
Oh, Moyes' first game coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depends on that. Tottenham can do anything, can't they? Tottenham can be absolutely awesome. It could be absolutely rubbish. So I'd most likely say a draw in there, I would say.
Okay. You go for a draw. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I think a bit of bounce on Moyes and they might sneak a 1-0, 2-1 or something like that. Everton.
Yeah. I think Spurs will spoil the party.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's right.
It's like Everton. We want Everton to get relegated and have a nice
with their big
shiny stadium in the Championship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Borough will be nice to visit there next season.
Yeah,
because we're not getting promoted anyway. Chelsea Wolves Monday Night Football boredom. But yeah, what do we think? Chelsea v Wolves on Monday night.
I'll be doing the Sing When You're Winning quiz that night. So
Oh yes, it's Blue Monday, isn't it? So yes, we've got the Sing When You're Winning quiz.
Oh yeah, it's the most depressing day of the year. Yeah,
it is. And Dan didn't believe it was a thing, but it is, Dan. it's a big thing.
I'm going to go Chelsea 2-0. Hopefully, Palmer both.
Yeah, Chelsea all day long. 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I would go 2-0 as well. Can't see Wolves getting anything there, to be fair. It's half time now. Nottingham Forest 1, Liverpool 0, by the way. So we'll see what happens for the duration of this podcast this Friday morning. Not that any of you are waiting on 10 Ducks, because you all know the results. So let's chat a little bit more. I mean, I don't think we've chatted enough about Leeds, lads, on this podcast tonight, but we'll chat a bit more about them.
Certain people will hate this pod, won't they? They get complaints when there's too much Leeds chat.
We will split the Sing When You're Winning WhatsApp group with this one, but Andy, I'm going to ask. I always ask people the highs and lows of supporting Leeds, but I'm going to ask you highs and lows of supporting and playing for Leeds as well.
Well, obviously, your high is making your debut. It's the one thing you're kind of trying to do as a young kid. When we won the Youth Cup, it was a massive high as well. We beat Man United in the final. It was 34,000 at Ellen Road. They had
that was a cracking team you played against in that final. As
yeah,
well,
it's the class of '92, isn't it? Minus gigs. So there was Beckham in there. There was Scholesy, Savage, Gillespie, Thornley, Neville. Were in there. Chris Casper was in there. So yeah, they had a very good. Nicky Butt was in there as well. So they had a very good team. But so did we. You look at Tinks, Sharpie, Jamie Forrest were all playing for England at that time. We had Snowy Noel Whelan up front, who was a workhorse. He never stopped. Scored a lot of goals in the way to that final. So we had a decent team as well. But I think, making your debut in the first team is what you're wanting to do. That's what you're aiming to try and get to. It's one of them things where Man City have just scored. Hopefully not Haaland.
Phil Foden's just scored. So Steve,
That's
have you not got him anymore? Did you get rid of him?
I've got rid of him ages ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I had him in for a couple of weeks and he wasn't playing from the start of the season, so I got rid of him. But I think making your debut is what every kid wants to do, and I think there's even if you play one game for Leeds United, it's more than what 99% of people actually have done. And I think from my point of view, is it's my boyhood club. I was there from 14. Right through 14s to 16s, playing on Sunday League kind of stuff. And then, 16 apprentice through to 18, playing, youth team football and also reserve team football. Met a lot of friends down there. We still have lots of WhatsApp groups as well within our kind of eras. So we've got a championship winning group, which has still got 90% of the players in that. Which is good. We've got our youth team group, which we haven't, that was 30 years ago now. Yeah. We're all getting on a bit. We had a bit of a reunion last year, so that was really good when we got everybody back together. So the club, I kind of organised with the club to get them down on a match day. So we came down. They all came down for a match. We had a table in the hospitality. I was still working, and then we went out into town after. But some of the lads there we have not even spoken to for 30 years. So, literally put this group together and, 90% of the lads there. The biggest low for me, Leeds-wise, was, kind of being told by George Graham that I'd never play for the football club again, never play for the reserves, never train with the first team, never train with the reserves, never train with the kids. And while he was telling me this, he was getting changed and he was naked by the end of it. So that was as low as you can kind of get, I suppose. But
zero respect.
Well, yeah, there's a word for him which I won't use, but I kind of got bombed out. We played against Arsenal. It was my last game, and away we had 9-man markers at Arsenal, and he wanted us to play like Arsenal. It was like, they had Vieira, they had Petit, they had Perez, I think, in that time, Adams playing, and, they had a very good team. We had Ian Hart playing centre forward, for instance. So, that's, that's one way of looking at it. Rod Wallace's missus was pregnant, and she decided to start everything off just as we were on the bus, basically. So we had to get off the bus, get in a taxi to go back home to sort her out. So
thought you were going to say she was playing right back.
Yeah, well, to be fair, she might well have been. She might well have been. So yeah, for me more than anything, I think that was kind of a reality, I suppose. That's how brutal football can be. They wanted money for me, so they couldn't leave me for nothing. So I couldn't disappear just for a free. He wasn't willing to do that unless I went abroad, which I tried to do. But he, in no uncertain terms, he told me in a way which, I was 20, I want to say 21, 22-ish or something like that. And I think, it doesn't matter who you are. I think the best man managers out there, we talked about Bielsa earlier on, and he doesn't really speak that much English, but his man management skills were unbelievable.
Yeah.
With players. And managers now have to be, brilliant at man managing, because it's a squad they've got to look for. So I think for me, how George went about it, it was very clear that, he didn't want me there. I wasn't involved. I wasn't going to be involved. So the reality from my point of view is that, I need to get out, and I need to move. I need to go somewhere else. And, my thought process at that point was I wanted to ideally go abroad. Realistically, it was the Bosman ruling, so I was going to go for free.
And again, kind of mid-season out there, Andy? Was it mid-season?
No, it was pre-season. I was on. So we got told. I got told at the end of the season,
Do we have
pretty much
transfer
from
windows
George.
then?
Yeah, well, yeah, to a certain point. It was pretty much the same as not the same as what we are now, but not far off. It was like March, you could leave.
Yeah.
So I knew in March, that I was never going to play for Leeds, but he wouldn't let me leave. I know he's turned down a couple of offers for me. So he was quite happy for me to rot a little bit, I suppose, in the reserves. Turned down a few things. The end of the season came, and that's when he told me. But I'd actually put a transfer request in just before to make people aware that I was available. Hence, that's why a couple of offers came in, and he turned them down. So it's like you're kind of in a bit of a quandary, really, because you don't really know what to do. Now it's maybe a little bit better because you know what you've got come the end of January. You know you're at that football club to the end of the season, and then you can start discussing what you need to be. But back then, obviously, it was kind of middle of the season. So I then nearly went to Osasuna. That was near enough done out in Spain. And then I went on loan. I went on trial to Rapid Vienna out in Austria. So I went out there for 10 days. I was in Tenerife on my holidays, and I knew I was going, so I took all my stuff with me, and I actually went from Tenerife to out to Austria. And for their pre-season, we played a few games. I played well. Their season was weird because they had like breaks in the winter for like 6-a-side, 5-a-side kind of competitions and stuff. But they were in the Champions League at the time. Everything was sorted. Literally, I had 4 or 5 agents working for me. I'd been to the house I was living in. I'd been with the captain of the club. I went to the car place. This is where you get your cars from. Come and see him tomorrow once you sign. Come and get you. He'll sort you a car out. So I was in the hotel, with my missus at the time, and just kind of saying, right, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then they pulled the plug literally the next morning. So it's like, and that was really good money. It was a really good offer and everything else. So yeah, that was really the kind of always try to balance everything. And I came back into pre-season, and George got me in. He told me again, basically, look, if we get the right offer for you, then you can go. Blah, 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 kind of, general stuff, I suppose. Trying to keep you happy, but obviously knowing what your situation was. And then I suppose, Carlisle came in and Blackpool came in. So Blackpool came in first. Nigel Worthington was the manager. I knew Nigel from Leeds, obviously. So he'd gone over there to be the manager. He wanted me over there. Then Mervyn Day also wanted me up at Carlisle. So I went to both clubs. The gaffer got me in. He said, look, we've accepted an offer from Blackpool. Go and speak to them. I said, what about Carlisle? I said, well, I accepted that ages ago, but go and speak to them if you want. That was his reaction. So I went to speak to both of them on the day with my agent. And, Carlisle just had a little bit more about it, I think. The stadium was a bit better. We had a good team. We had Matt Jansen playing for us. We had Roy Delap playing for us. We had Owen Archdeacon, a guy called Stefan Panavachi who come from PSG. Tony Craig, all went into the Premier League or played in Premier League Championship teams or up in Scotland. So I kind of chose Carlisle, but the unfortunate bit was I had Michael Knighton as me chairman, who tried to buy Man United. George has got one word. Michael Knighton's got another word, which I can't say. He was a complete and utter tool, and we didn't get on, basically. So I played 24 games that first season, and my understanding is if I played 25, the odd Leeds more money, and I never played that 25th game. You get man of the match on Saturday, and then you'd be dropped the week after. I got told I wasn't fit enough, so I went for we used to do like a 5-mile run with the 2 guys who were in charge under him and stuff. And I got one day I just said to a guy called Billy Barr, who's assistant manager around. He was up at Carlisle again, but he was at Preston and things. And Billy was a runner, and he just said, "Look, I just said to Billy, I said, I'm going to try and stick with you all the way around today. I've got to prove that I'm fit enough. And I went up and I came around the corner, put a bit of a spurt on around the corner, and the two guys who were in charge were like waiting. And so I've kind of come through, and that was it, whatever, half an hour, whatever it was, time wise. And then Billy's come behind me, and I was good mates with Billy. We used to travel up. He lived in Halifax, and I lived in Baildon still, and we travelled up together. And he just said to me, he said in the car, he said, they asked me after if you cheated, and I said, you what? So I stopped the car, turned back, and we were only literally just outside, and went and knocked on the door, and maybe shouldn't have said what I said, but gave them both barrels.
Good for you.
So but that's football. This is the thing. Now I think you look at football. I look at football now, and I do the co-coms with the 21s and things as well at Leeds, and with the guys down there, and fair play to them. They're getting decent contracts and everything else, but I still feel that there should be a reserve team. There should be a team where these young players can play against men. Yeah. And work, and you find out more. I think as a manager, you'd find out more about what that person's about, and also what they can and can't do. And if you're not good enough at 21 to play in the first team, if you ask me, realistically, you should be looking somewhere else. If you're nowhere near that first team, especially now with the big squads, you should be looking to go somewhere else, and seeing who you can pick your brains against, or you're going out on loan, or you're doing something on them kind of side of it. It's I do think it should be something which is coming in. The 23s was even worse. Why the hell you had the under 23s? I do not know. It was a pointless exercise. I know clubs are frightened to death of losing somebody, but realistically, how many come through at that point? And if they do come through, great, because they'll be at another club, and then a Premier League club will come and buy them, and that helps them further down the line, a bit like the FA Cup this weekend. It's going to help your Tamworths, are going to help. It's going to help your Morecambes. It's going to help, your Harrogate Towns. It's going to help all these clubs as the FA Cup, because these clubs are going to get cash from everybody. So, it's a real difficult one, I think, how it is now. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit, I suppose, a synopsis of my career to a certain point. I ended up then down at Blackpool under Nigel. I got out eventually. With Knighton, so I eventually got out into down to Blackpool and did really well down there. Played right back. I was playing right wing back for him, and then literally I just got a year of injuries and 6 months of injuries, and I was injured at the end of the year, and it's very difficult. My contract was up. Everything, the synergy just wasn't at that right time, I suppose.
Yes.
Getting injured, contract up, going down as a club, the three things you kind of go, if you had another year, you're kind of thinking, well, I'm going to be fit for pre-season, I'm going to be ready again, and all that kind of stuff. And then you're just kind of scratching around a little bit for a year, really trying to get a job. And, for me personally, it was most likely a good thing, because I kind of went in and started my own business doing PT, and then, doing some personal training, and then set up another business, and kind of got involved with other bits from that, really. So, in a way, it's a blessing at 35 if you're still playing. What do you do? To retrain, something. It was really interesting. I was at an event. I was emceeing at with Matt Dawson, Neil Back, and Ben Cohen down at name drop the Shard. So we're doing an event for them, which is a charity event for them. And Matt Dawson actually came out with something which I always ask players, what's it like? Is the transition from being a footballer to being a nobody, basically. And that's a real difficult process to go through, because you literally are wanted by everybody. And then suddenly nobody wants anything to do with you, and you've got to go retrain. Now, it might be different now, because these players do have a lot more money about them. There's a lot more money in the game, so they could be financially secure. Yeah. But, the best way to describe it is everybody who watches this, so you guys, tomorrow you can't do your job anymore and you've got to go retrain and do something else. What do? That then puts a reality to the normal person out in the street, because people don't think of it that way. You know, and that's the hard bit really for people to get their head around, that we have to, unfortunately, retrain in one way, shape or form, because 90% of footballers realistically out of the Premiership will have to work again and do some, a proper job. And suddenly going to a 9 to 5, or suddenly I was with James Hansen, I was with him the other week, and he's a driver.
Yeah,
he drives for a company. You know, he had a decent career in the lower leagues with Bradford and things like that. You know, he came out of being in the Co-op and everything else, but he, stacking shells to, beating Arsenal, beating Aston Villa and things. And it's a real difficult transition, and it is a real difficult transition. And that's not just football. That's any sport really.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, if you kind of put it that way and you kind of go, well, what would you do tomorrow? If you couldn't do your job, what would you do tomorrow? Well, the answer's 9 times out of 10, the answer's I don't really know.
Yeah, well,
You know.
And it is such a short career, isn't it? You see anyone now, you follow somebody's career. Look at somebody like Rashford's like 28 now, and it seems like 5 minutes ago he was a young kid coming through, wasn't it? And
Well, it is. I think every. And the thing is also, everybody's wanting your position. So everybody's wanting your job. I always say that professional football is self-employed, because basically yes, they're in a team, and yes, they've got contracts, yes, they've got other things, but realistically, there's somebody out there who wants to take your job.
Yeah.
Rashford, he's a strange one, isn't he? Really, because I think he's done. I think he's been fantastic for Man United for a few years. It's impossible to keep that quality going, a bit like Kelvin Phillips at the minute. He's kind of lost his way a little bit. Man City, was it the right move? Was it not? Well, of course it was the right move. He won the treble. He quadrupled his wages. It definitely 100%. It was the right move for him at that time. It wasn't the right move for Leeds, but personally for him, it was the right move for his family and everything else. And when he looks back, when he's nearly my age, say like when he's 50, for instance, then he looks back and he looks in his cabinet. He's got his Bentley outside still, and he's got the treble in his cabinet along with the other things. He kind of going, yeah, actually, to be fair, I had a decent career. But Rashford you can't just think that Rashford's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And that's what Fergie was so good with them players coming through, the players we talked about earlier on. He saw when they needed a rest, and he sent them away. I can remember Beckham not playing all over Christmas, and he sent him on holiday. He said, go away, go on holiday for 2 weeks. You are not playing, and it's like, you need a rest.
Yeah.
And he went, and he was straight back in the team as soon as he came back. He knew how to manage people.
Yeah.
And that's how he got the best out of Eric Cantona, wasn't it? So, it's a real difficult one. I think Rashford will come good again. Will he come good at Manchester United? Most likely not. McTominay's gone off to Napoli. He's been fantastic, out there. So it just sometimes just needs a freshening up of a new challenge for them, because he's been there for so long.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, thank you. Honestly, fascinating listening to you, like being so honest about the highs and lows of professional football and life, to be fair.
Did George Graham do the whole thing where they all have a rope and that, the back four in and out and all that? Did they do that at Leeds?
We did do a little bit of that, but we didn't really do much of it, to be honest. We did shadow play a lot. We did, the back four and the two midfielders, basically a lot of shadow play. And there was a lot of talking which was needed within that as well. But look, it worked, didn't it? Going forward, you look at the next wave, I suppose, of people coming through. It worked, because the next wave of people which was coming through was your Woodgates, was your Boyers, and Boyer just. Yeah, no, Boyer was the next wave as such, I would say. Smithy was in there. Kells was obviously within that group. Dave Weatherall was in that group who, left pretty soon after George had gone, I think. But, I think the fundamentals were all there, and the younger players were always looking at that as well.
Stabilised Leeds a bit, didn't he, for a little while? Did he turned Ian Rush into a non-scoring central midfielder or something, didn't he?
Yeah, Rushy was a legend, but he was in the bomb squad as well. So Rushy, we used to go out on a Wednesday night and And Rushy was like, look, if we're going out on Wednesday, don't matter what time you get in, but we are in before everybody else. So we're in, generally everybody's in at 10:30, for training. We'd be in at 9:30. Nice. So we'd go in, we'd sit down. So the bomb squad would go in, sit down, have breakfast, and then we would go and train at 10:30. Same time as everybody else, but we're making a point to the manager that we're all there, we're all having breakfast. That we've been out, and things, but, we're going to be there on time and we'll be professional. We'll do everything what we need to do, So Rushy was, he was a great guy, at that time, certainly for the younger players, to just bounce off really and speak to and give advice for. He was coming to the end of his
legend,
career.
wasn't he? Really, since up at Leeds then, and
yeah, absolutely.
Didn't he farm your Bower out as well, George Graham?
Yeah, they had a bit of a spat as well, didn't they? Between the two of them, Tony was just an absolute animal legend. What a player, unbelievable. In every way, how you could keep him out, I do not know. But that's also how Tony felt. So if he wasn't in there, he'd say what he thought really. But we still had a good team. You go back to that team. If George just would have had that little bit of faith in the squad, I think he could have got a little bit more out of that squad, which then would have gone into the next phase with David O'Leary. Yeah, to be honest, but I suppose things happen for a reason in that sense, and he was definitely. Yeah, George definitely put the blocks in to be built on, and David O'Leary came in and he was his assistant. Paddy was, to be fair, generally he was the coach more than anything. He was the one we spoke to. He was the one who was there every day. George turned up generally on a Thursday for a game on a Saturday, but Paddy did all the training along with Eddie. Gray and stuff. So that's he was his apprentice without a shadow of a doubt, and he took everything on. And I think he just let the reins off. Did David O'Leary, and I think Paddy just he had a squad and he knew he had a young squad, and I think he just went, do you know what? Let's let them go and play. Yeah, and that's what he did.
No, had some good times. Just looking at some scores, lots of goals while we've been chatting. Man City winning 2-1 at Brentford. Chelsea are losing 2-1 at home to Bournemouth.
What?
And West Ham 3, Fulham 2. Fulham are making a bit of a comeback. Iwobi's got 2 goals. I'm looking at some of the chat.
Wearing our boots, it is. That's what it is. He's wearing our boots. He's got some new boots, which I'm involved with. They're the vegan football boots.
There you go.
Vegan football
boots is the future.
The vegan and sustainable football boots, and he's invested into the company called Sakito, and he's never stopped scoring. First week he had them. He had I think he scored 2. He scored 2 tonight. He scored 5 goals, 6 goals now since he's been involved with us. So they are working, definitely working.
Is he in your team, Andy?
Is he in my team?
No.
You need to back the vegan football boots a bit more.
Do you know what? I put him in my team, and I thought he scored 3 in 3. I'm going to take him out because he's not going to score anymore. But he hasn't. He hasn't scored anymore until tonight. So he scored 2 tonight. But I still fancy West Ham to get over the line on that one though, because they're 3-2, aren't they? So I still fancy West Ham to get over the line on that.
A couple minutes to go in most of the matches in injury time, and Forest continue to lead Liverpool 1-0 after 63 minutes.
Yeah.
So, shall we? Have we got any listener questions, or should we move on to Sing When You Win?
There was one listener question.
One listener question. Go on.
It was from a Ben Shires.
Oh, okay. Heard of him.
And this
I've heard of him.
There's been another goal. Brentford have just equalised against Man City.
Oh, game on.
And Ben's question to you, Andy, was quite relevant because we were a bit late recording the thing today. He said, how much sleep are you getting nowadays with 2 kids under 4?
He knows exactly how much sleep I'm getting, and it's absolutely sweet of air. I don't want to tempt fate, but the last 2 nights, but the youngest one has been useless, and she's like, I think, still screaming upstairs. And the other one she was nearly down when I got out, and she woke up as I was getting out of of her room, and I think now she is watching Bluey on bed. So the last 2 nights, touch wood, the youngest has had some conjunctivitis, so her eyes have not been able to open. But we've had 2 nights sleep, so we're all right on that one at the minute.
Oh well, fingers crossed for the hat trick.
I don't think we're going to get the hat trick, but fingers crossed that we do. We think we've cracked it with one of them. We haven't had any sleep for 4 years with one of them. Wow. So she's always been up, but Santa obviously has been, and the advent calendar has chocolate in it, so she has to sleep all night and stay in a room until the morning, and then she can have the advent calendar. We have bought 12 advent calendars going forward to just make sure that she sleeps.
Well, I'm with the one that's watching Bluey. People will think after that we finish this on Friday morning, I'm going to watch the end of Forest Liverpool. I'll watch a bit of Bluey any day of the week.
Bluey's funny, actually. To be fair, it's funny.
Very well observed.
Yeah, it is. It's very funny. It's very funny from our point of view. So it's actually something we can watch as well as what they can watch. But for some reason, she's got into it and she loves it. So it's like, right, fine, you can watch it. So yeah. But she'll be knackered now tomorrow because she's very, very late to bed.
All right. This Friday morning, it's all happening.
Yes.
So let's play Sing When You're Winning Superfan. Now, you were honest, unlike other people who've been guests on this show, and said you've never listened to one of these podcasts. That I admire your honesty. Well, each week we test our guests' footballing knowledge and see how many questions they can get correct in 90 seconds. Now, the top score to beat is 6. So that
seem
to
a lot, does it?
At the top, there's a few people with 6. And just as well, we use ChatGPT just for entertainment. So sometimes I will be reading a question out. I try and check them before, but sometimes a few sneak through and we'll ask random questions that are wrong. They're just crap. So if I ask you a question, you go, "What's the answer?" Actually, that doesn't make sense. We'll stop. And we'll go again. We'll edit it in whatever way. But Steve is the official timer of the 90 seconds.
And if you don't know, don't ponder it too long, because Chesney was pondering for about 40 seconds.
Oh no, I won't be pondering. Don't worry.
Just say pass. I'll move on, etc.
Liverpool have just scored.
Oh,
1-1.
Well, I'll say unless I know it was. Did Salah score it?
I don't know.
It was Jota, according to this.
Oh.
That's all right then.
Although they're not always right, because they said Harry Wilson scored one of the Fulham goals at first, and I got excited, but then they changed it. So I'm not going to believe what I can see in front of me until it happens. But anyway, after 90 seconds, Steve will shout something related to this conversation. And if we mid-question, we've started, so we'll finish. And I will keep score as we go through it as well. So the time will start when I ask the first question. So Steve, have you got the clock ready?
Yep.
So we'll make a start. Now, which player has the most assists in Premier League history?
Salah.
Ryan Giggs, 162. Ooh. Who won the Premier League Golden Boot in the 2019-2020 season?
It's Haaland one in then. Oh God, pass.
Jamie Vardy, apparently. Which manager won the Premier League with Leicester City?
Ranieri.
Yeah, nice and easy. So I shouldn't have gone which club has the most FA Cup wins?
Liverpool.
Arsenal with 14. Which Premier League club has the most top flight relegations? They're not currently a Premier League club. That's a clue.
Oh.
Sat in the Championship, but they're being relegated the most time from the Premier League.
Burnley?
Norwich City.
Oh.
Which team won the Premier League in the 2014-15 season?
Was that Leicester again? No.
It was, no.
I'm going to go for Man City.
It was Chelsea.
Yeah.
Which Premier League club won the 2019 UEFA Champions League?
Chelsea.
Liverpool.
Bluey.
Cross-check that. Was that Liverpool or was that Chelsea? Because you made me doubt as I said it. Well, we'll ask another question as we were Bluey. So, which club did Thierry Henry play for before joining Arsenal?
Monaco.
It was Juventus.
Oh, was it?
Well, again, this could be bullshit. I think that could be bullshit.
Well, I played against him at Monaco.
Check that. I'm going to fact check that.
You might be
This
right.
is the joys of.
Did he go from Monaco to? No, he didn't go from Monaco to Juventus, did he?
Yeah, I'm about to check his playing career. No, it was Monaco, Juventus, then Arsenal.
Oh, right. Because I played against him at Monaco when he was at Monaco in the European Cup thing. I got booked against him.
Claim to fame.
A little bit. Chelsea 2-2 now. Yeah, no, yeah. I thought he'd gone straight from Monaco to there, but was it Bergkamp who'd gone then? Did Bergkamp go from there? I can remember Wenger being up in Monaco saying he's signed somebody.
Yeah, and 2018-19 was Liverpool. Just thought I would double fact check. So yeah, off the back of that, then I think you got 2.
Yes.
So you're in.
I'm taking it.
You're in good company. There's quite a lot of people with
there's
2.
a lot of 2s.
So you're in good company there, Andy. Thank you very much. So we're almost out of time. We've got a few more things. Bletchley Scott, how do we think that they got on at the weekend, Steve?
Frozen pitch.
It was postponed as predicted. But they're back this Saturday away to Shenley FC, who they beat early this season.
Oh.
So we're looking to see if they can get the double. Do you know much about Bletchley Scott, Andy?
No.
They're the team that we sponsor. You might not. There was it on the WhatsApp group a while ago, pre-season, and they are the team that are. Is it coached by our league sponsors? Carl at the Terrace.
Yeah, I think so. Or his daughter plays.
Yeah,
I have got my cup.
You've got your Terrace cup. Good.
Yeah, I've got my cup. It's actually ready to make a cup of tea, but my missus just sent me pictures of the kids still on the bed. Still awake. My God.
That sounds like a hint.
Yes.
No, they are. They're still. I keep ignoring it, to be fair. I'm like, really? We're still talking, love. We're still talking.
Well, you might be. This is the final piece. Chelsea equalised very late on, didn't they?
Yeah, and West Ham are beating Fulham as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Oh, is that full time? Yeah, West Ham, Fulham's full time. Brentford City's 2-2 full time. So yeah, interesting scores in the league, and Forest Liverpool still got 20 to play. But did you must have read Match Magazine? You ever in Match Magazine, Shoot Magazine, is a player profile? And I did search to see if you were, but I couldn't find one.
Possibly. I was in the first ever 442.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I was at the launch of the new boot, which I'm involved with, and down in London, and there was a young kid, and he came up, and I was chatting to him, and he looks at boots, and he writes about boots basically. And I said, "Oh, do you work for?" He said, "Oh, 442." I said, "I was in the first ever 442, but I'm guessing you weren't even born then, were you?" And he wasn't even born when the first one came out, and that's what made me feel old. But I'm sure I was in Shoot because I was a Shoot man, not a Match man.
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
to be honest, it was a better magazine back in the day, if you ask me.
It was. There was a Match annual in a shop the other day for £1. And wow. I almost bought it to see. It was like the latest one to see if there'd be any content for this, but then I thought, no. What does a grown man want to be buying a Match annual?
Well, there's a lot of people who do things like that. But the thing is, you go back to them. You go back to them days. You go back to that. That was where you got your information from, really, because you didn't have any phones.
True.
So nobody could look up anything on there. So. Even if you were crap at football, nobody could take the piss out of you. So it was easy, wasn't it? In a way, you can get away with stuff. Nowadays you can't get away with anything. Literally everything's there. So, for me, going back in the day, you get your Match magazine, you get your Shoot magazine, you get Panini stickers, all that kind of stuff. And then go back to the FA Cup, this weekend, just gone. That was the big TV time. That was the bit which we watched because it was on terrestrial TV.
Yeah.
And that FA Cup, I had Hodgie with me, Steve Hodge on Saturday, and he lost in 2 finals, and he was like, the build up and everything else. You had cameras with you from 9 o'clock, but everybody watched from 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So kick off at 3 o'clock, get on the bus, follow the bus through, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That it's kind of lose the magic from all of that a little bit, if you ask me.
Oh, totally.
There's a lot of football on at the minute, and you kind of, I generally don't watch the Premier League because I get bored of it because we're not involved in it.
Yeah.
Did Hodgie sell Maradona's shirt? Did he get his £10 million for it, or what it was?
7.2.
Nice.
There you go.
In the bank.
Yeah, 7.2. He was guaranteed 4.2, I think it was, and then it went to Sotheby's, and I think he was watching on his tablet, and it just went up and up and up. Still the tightest man in the world, man. He still hasn't bought us a pint, as Mel would say. And, he's bought a car which doesn't even get him from Nottingham to Leeds and back again, which is an electric thing he's got, and it doesn't get him here and back. So Mel always has a moan up on that on match days. But yeah, he's a great lad. He's Hodgie. He's. I'll let him tell the stories about that. But yeah, he's still got the Maradona shirt. Well, he had the Maradona shirt. Somebody came to him and said, "Look, we want to buy it off you." So it ended up in Sotheby's, and fair play to him.
Nice bit of business.
Nice bit of 7.2 million on it. I think there was a lot of due diligence had to go into it, though. I think there was a embellish in the badge, I think, which is what they needed to see. So
I think I read somebody was saying it wasn't actually the shirt or something. Where they were trying
it was
to say
there. It was there. I think it was his family. I think was saying that.
All right.
I think there was a few bits which went on. I think in the background, but I think that was her or his family. I think saying that no, that's not the real Hand of God shirt and so on and so forth. But he
because they wanted a cut. You mean?
Yeah, well, I think it had something on the badge. You can look it up, but there's something on the badge which it had like the yellow bit was a little bit higher, and it kind of missed a little bit, and that's the bit which they needed to see because it's on the pictures or something. There was something like that which which got the authentication from it.
Because I think I read it wasn't actually their away shirt, but it was so hot in Mexico that Maradona actually went out with some, and they went to a sports shop and bought a lot of these blue shirts, and then put the Argentina badge on them because it was a better shirt for the sweat and stuff like that.
No, I don't know about that. He did. I think he
Google it, people.
Yeah, well,
I think he came into the changing room after. I believe he came into the changing room after did Maradona and swapped a shirt with Gary Lineker, and Gary Lineker thought he had it. I think, but Hodgie was like being Hodgie and just kept it in. In the little bag, and then
brought it while he was in showers.
brought it out. No, he swapped it in the tunnel. Everybody was after Maradona. I think Lineker played with Maradona. I think at that point potentially. But no, the best thing is he's got a meme, which is if you watch it and you watch the goal which Maradona does, it's Hodgie who flicks it back. He's the English guy who flicks it back. Then Peter Shilton comes out and misses it, and Maradona hits it. So he's actually played the pass back. So on our WhatsApp group, he gets that every year on his birthday. So we send him that, and we take the mick out of him for it. But fair play to him. He's one of the good guys. He's Hodgie. He'd be very happy how Forest are doing at this present moment in time, I think.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, let's do the quick profile questions as if you were in Match or indeed Shoot magazine. So the private life of Andy Couzens live here on the podcast. So which subject did you hate most at school and why?
Biology, because I kept on getting kicked out as soon as I walked in the door.
Any reason?
No reason. No reason. Back then, they didn't have to have a reason, did they?
Just kick you out. Fair enough.
It was like Cousins get out, and he eventually he was called Mr. McHugh, and he had to apologise to me.
Good. What would you do if you could be invisible for a day?
Oh, go to Camelot and win the lottery.
Good stuff. What was the first car you bought, and how much did it cost?
A Nissan Sunny LX. 1.3, and it cost me 1,500 quid.
1,500 quid. That's a good price for a car.
Bought it from an old woman who'd done no miles in it, and I had to sell it to my brother for more than what I could, for less than what I could get for it when I sold it.
Excellent.
Basically.
If you were competing in Mastermind, what would your specialist subject be?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to say sport, I think.
Sport, yeah. Leeds United, maybe. Who is your favourite cartoon character?
Tom and Jerry were brilliant.
Yeah.
Can't get it anymore. It's not politically correct, I think.
No. Too violent.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry was brilliant. I watched with the kids the other day, Danger Mouse. Now that was a good one as well.
Brilliant.
To be fair, that's back out. But no, Tom and Jerry, Scooby Doo, them kind of things are always good. But I always say to my kids, said to Clara, I said, you need to watch Tom and Jerry, but you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, you've got to find it. It should be on YouTube or something like
You'd
that.
think so.
I was saying that because in the old days when the TV went kaput, then Tom and Jerry had just suddenly come on, wouldn't they? Well, there were having problems with the program or something.
It was brilliant.
It was great TV. And last question. Funnily enough, you did ask this question earlier and said for like what would people who weren't footballers think about? But this was a question Shoot Magazine were asking. If you were forced to seek a new job tomorrow, what would you do?
Well, there you go. You see, I came out of football and went into personal training.
Yeah,
I had my business for 25 years, so that was I suppose a way straight into it. And then I then went into IV therapy. So I did like a company called Revive. So I've got a global share in there. So that's an IV company. So we put vitamins, minerals, electrolytes back into people's bodies. Mm-hmm. And then I'm involved with this football boot, putting on nights, emceeing. So yeah, it's a weird one, really. As I said, when you come out of football, you've got to reinvent yourself. And I know a lot of lads who really struggled with it. And you'd be amazed in sport how many people actually say, when you came out of sport and how hard it was and things. A lot of people would say that they did try and commit suicide. It's very, very common. On that side of it, because they literally don't know where to go. So, my biggest thing to all these kids who are out there at this present moment in time, from 12, 13, 14, all the way up, when you get to a point, go and get an apprenticeship in something which you can take on. So go and get something that you can be an electrician, you can be a gas man, you can be something on them kind of lines, which means that you've got a job which you can come out of football in and still do, because 99% of them are going to need it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But Malcolm Allen played for Watford back in 1988, and the answer that he gave to that question is he'd go and join his dad and his brother in the quarry. So there you go. That's an answer you would have got in 1988, but you certainly wouldn't.
There you go. Now. You see, yeah.
So he clearly thought about it from Watford to the quarry. I mean, I'll leave
Watford would have been
make the connection.
Watford would have been in the first division then as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have been. Yeah,
back then there'd have been. That's John Barnes' kind of era. That one.
Yeah.
Nice, but he was all set to play to go down the quarry if it all went wrong. Yeah. Anyways, that has been Sing When You're Winning for another week. So a huge thank you to you, Andy, for joining us.
No problems.
And good luck with the season. You can follow us on Twitter at SWYW _ now FPL. And if you're watching us on YouTube, why not leave us a comment? You can give us the score. There's a penalty appeal for Liverpool, and it's being turned away by the looks of it. But yeah, Mo Salah. It's all happening this live football as it happened on Tuesday night, this Friday morning. But thanks to you, Steve, once again for joining us and turning up on a cold Tuesday night in January, unlike the others. They might be back next week, all being well. But enjoy your footballing week. Keep on singing and keep on winning. Goodbye.
See ya.
Thank you.